Israel says it'll allow a basic amount of food aid into Gaza. Israel imposed a total blockade of all humanitarian relief into the enclave in early March in an attempt to pressure Hamas into releasing all remaining Israeli hostages. The country's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the decision to ease the blockade had been made to ensure famine does not develop in Gaza and that Israel's expanded military campaign in the territory is not jeopardised. It follows a week of intensive strikes, which Palestinian authorities say have killed more than 460 people. Omar Shakir is the Israel and Palestine Director at Human Rights Watch and joins us now from Toronto. Omar Shakir, thank you for your time. Firstly, Israel saying it'll allow a basic amount of food aid into Gaza. Your reaction to that?
It is a small but insufficient step. It's been 78 days in which the Israeli government has blocked the entry of food, of aid, of medical supplies, of water. The population is starving. The UN has said this is this is the worst moment in the 19 months of hostilities. The World Health Organization has issued warnings. We've seen the UN warn of a high risk of famine across Gaza. 57 people have been reportedly died as a direct result of malnutrition, but likely thousands more have died as a result of the knockoff effects, the lack of clean water in hospitals, the inability to sanitize properly, the spread of disease. So the fact that some food is being let in after 75 days of total blockade is something, but ultimately a lot more urgent action is needed. We're talking about not only starvation, but bombs continuing to rain down, 100 plus Palestinians a day being killed. Many of them are women and children. Hospitals under attack. The majority of schools, of hospitals have been damaged or destroyed of homes. Gaza has been, destroyed. We're talking about an escalation right now in what's been a war of extermination. And frankly, that word, maybe even underplaying the extent of what the Israeli government is doing on the ground.
And do we have any further details on what is a basic amount of food and if there is enough for the entire population there? What do we know of that and when it would actually begin?
We don't. I mean, the government, Netanyahu came out and made this announcement. Details weren't provided. There was not a formal vote that took place in the cabinet. We know that there are hundreds of thousands of tons of food sitting at the border waiting to enter. The Israeli government with the United States has proposed a new mechanism for allowing aid in, which would only make aid available in certain parts of Gaza. In many cases, people under the fog of war would have to walk kilometers to get aid, and this has been rejected by the UN and others. That mechanism needs at least another week to come into place. So the understanding is that this aid would enter through existing mechanisms, such as the World Food Program and the Gaza Central Kitchen. But aid needs to enter yesterday. Literally, lives hang in the balance. And of course, getting some food in is not enough if it's not done in a way that's sustainable, if it's not reaching all parts of the population, if it's not distributed safely. So it is a step, but we're still talking about a very dire humanitarian crisis.
Benjamin Netanyahu said that this decision is made so that famine does not develop in Gaza. And he also says that by allowing some aid in, it'll enable Israel to expand its new military operation. Do you understand what he means by that?
Look, I mean, what the Israeli government is basically, I mean, they've for a long time had Gaza on the brink of famine. I mean, the UN again has warned of the high risk in all parts of Gaza in the coming weeks. But the declaration of famine often lags the situation on the ground, where we're already hearing about food running out. The majority, virtually all the population, going days, without food. This military plan that began this weekend, is talking about leveling what's remaining standing in Gaza of civilian infrastructure, doing to the rest of Gaza what's been done in Rafah, and concentrating the rest of the population, 2 million people, in a small territory, about 20% of Gaza, which is all 40 by 11 kilometers. That would be an abhorrent escalation in the war crimes, the crimes against humanity, and acts of genocide Israel has taken place. So I think the Israeli government, probably has felt pressure from the international community and felt it needed to let some aid in order to be able to continue with this otherwise, horrendous military operation that portends real devastating impact on the civilian population.
And finally, the reasoning behind this blockade to pressure Hamas into releasing all remaining Israeli hostages. Has it worked?
No, I mean, look, hostages are being held unlawfully. It is a war crime. Civilians held hostage should be immediately and unconditionally released. But the factual record shows that virtually all, the vast majority of hostages have been released as a result of agreements between Hamas and the Israeli government. Now, again, they should be released immediately. It shouldn't take, human beings shouldn't be bargaining chips. But the reality here is hostage families have been among the most vocal segment of Israeli society calling for a ceasefire and an end to the war because they realize that's the best way to get their families home. But leading their relatives home. But Israeli officials have said directly, recovering hostages is not the number one objective here. The real objective here, and it's become more and more transparent, by the day, is really to, further displace and destroy what remains of Gaza. And that is not only portending future war crimes, but we're talking about very serious violations. And it's on the international community, on states like Australia, to act. Their duty to prevent under the Genocide Convention has already been triggered. The risk of genocide has long been there. It's time for Australia and other states to do more.